Dear friend, have you ever noticed how life weaves invisible threads around you, subtle, delicate, yet tightening slowly until your spirit feels trapped? A fleeting glance, a careless word, an expectation you never agreed to, and yet, one by one, they pull you farther from the sacred stillness within your heart. You carry burdens you do not remember choosing, fight battles you never intended to fight, and slowly, the bright, boundless sky within you is hidden behind clouds you cannot name. But what if today could be different? What if you could step out of the net? What if you could stand at the very center of life's chaos and remain untouched, still as a mountain, vast as an endless sky? Today, we will walk together into one of the most profound and liberating truths of Buddhist wisdom: how to cut the invisible strings that quietly steal your peace, how to stop reacting to the endless noise of the world, and how to return, once and for all, to the unshakable stillness that has always been your true nature. This is not merely a teaching to be heard, it is a doorway to be entered with your whole being. Every moment of this journey holds a key, a seed way back to yourself. So I invite you, stay with me until the end. Breathe with me through each word. Let these teachings settle into the silent spaces between your thoughts. And if this journey speaks to something deep inside you, I welcome you to leave a reflection in the comments, to subscribe, and to join this growing circle of those who choose to live from the center of stillness rather than the edge of chaos. There is more waiting for you than you can yet imagine. The path begins now. When we first entered this world, we arrived as beings of pure openness. A child knows how to cry when sadness visits, and just as easily, how to laugh when joy returns. There is no clinging, no aversion, no grudges held in the tiny heart of a child. Emotions pass through like summer winds, leaving no trace behind. The spirit, untamed and free, flows naturally with the rhythm of life. Yet as the years unfold, something subtle and sorrowful begins to happen. Society, like a patient sculptor, starts to carve into our innocence. Little by little, it teaches us different songs to sing. You must be liked, you must be right, you must succeed. These teachings do not come all at once, they seep quietly into the fabric of our minds, until one day, without realizing, we find that we have handed over the keys to our inner peace. Not stolen, given. Offered up in small, unconscious exchanges for approval, recognition, and a fleeting sense of belonging. A young student I once knew exemplified this truth. Every comment, every critique from his teacher, no matter how minor, would unravel his nights and tighten his breath. His suffering was not born from cruelty, nor even from the accuracy of the words spoken to him. It arose because he had bound his self-worth to the shifting moons of another. He forgot that his value, like the light of the sun, existed independently of any cloud that passed before it. The Buddha, in his infinite compassion, once spoke a simple yet profound truth: when someone insults you, think of it as dust thrown into the wind. If you do not pick it up, it simply falls to the ground. It is not the insult that pierces the heart, it is our willingness to grasp it, to cradle it, to make it part of ourselves. Without our clinging, words remain weightless. Consider how often we allow ourselves to be puppets pulled by invisible strings. A frown unsettles us, a careless word wounds us, an unmet expectation diminishes our joy. We become servants to the most fleeting and unreliable forces. We smile when smiled upon, we break when frowned upon, we rise and fall endlessly like waves tossed by every passing breeze. But who, truly, commands your peace? Is it the stranger who misunderstands you? The colleague who criticizes you? The family member who doubts you? If you place the temple of your heart into the hands of the world, do not be surprised when it crumbles beneath the world's storms. The wise ones, the silent ones who have walked before us, understood this. They rooted their joy not in being praised nor their sorrow in being blamed. They stood like ancient trees whose roots grew so deep into the earth that no wind could uproot them. To live freely is to reclaim what was never meant to be surrendered. To live wisely is to see through the illusion that your worth is a reflection in another's eyes. The Dhammapada reminds us, as a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, so the wise remain unmoved by praise or blame. It is not a hardening of the heart that the Dharma calls for, but a softening into truth. It is not indifference to the world, but independence from its ever-changing currents. Imagine a mirror covered in dust. Would you rage at the dust? Would you doubt the mirror's ability to reflect the light? No, you would simply wipe it clean. In the same way, when the opinions of others cloud your mind, know that your true nature remains untouched. No praise can complete you. No blame can diminish you. You were whole from the beginning, and you are whole still. Thus, walk this path not as one who fights every wind, but as one who stands quietly in their own vastness. Let the dust fall. Let the world speak. Let the winds blow. Smile gently at it all, and in your silent knowing, be free. Yet if we look more closely, we begin to see that it is not only in moments of criticism or praise that we surrender our peace. Every day, silently, almost without notice, we carry countless invisible threads that bind us to the world's expectations. Threads spun from the need to be recognized, the urgency to respond, the pressure to achieve, to be admired, to be seen. These threads are so thin, so light, that we barely feel their weight at first. And yet, over time, they weave themselves into a net that constricts the very breath of our soul. We chase after acknowledgement, thinking it will finally quench our thirst for meaning. We rush to answer every message, every request, every demand, fearing that to pause is to become invisible, to be forgotten. We burden ourselves with dreams and goals that are not born from our deepest truth, but from a silent, gnawing fear that we must prove ourselves worthy to exist. I remember a young woman, bright and full of promise, who once shared her sorrow with me. She had lost her job, an event that many would call a setback, but for her, it was a complete unraveling. It was not hunger or hardship that broke her spirit. It was the sudden emptiness of identity. Without her title, her position, her daily affirmations of usefulness, she stood naked before herself and asked the question more devastating than any loss: who am I now? This is the silent suffering that so many of us endure. We have allowed our roles, our achievements, our reflections in others' eyes to stitch together a fragile sense of self. And when those outer forms crumble, as all things conditioned must, our inner world collapses along with them. The Buddha, with infinite compassion, foresaw this sorrow. In the middle-length discourses, he gently reminds us, there is nothing in this world that can rightly be called mine, or me, or myself. This is not a denial of life's beauty, but an invitation to see clearly, to recognize that all things we cling to are impermanent, fleeting, and ultimately empty of the substance we seek. When we bind our identity to what can be taken away, we live in perpetual fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of insignificance. It is like building a house on sand, trembling with every gust of wind. But when we see that we are not the titles, not the successes, not even the failures, but the awareness that witnesses them all, then a deeper freedom arises, one that no worldly storm can shake. Ask yourself gently, how many invisible threads am I carrying today? How many of my choices are made not from love, but from fear? How many of my dreams are not true dreams, but desperate attempts to earn a place in a world that forgets us as easily as it praises us? The Buddha teaches that clinging is the root of suffering. But it is not the clinging to things alone, it is the clinging to ideas about who we must be, how we must appear, what we must accomplish. These invisible demands wrap themselves around our hearts and steal from us the very life we are trying so hard to secure. And so the path of wisdom begins here, in the slow, courageous unraveling of every thread that is not born from authenticity. To be freed is not to have nothing, it is to need nothing from that which is unstable. To be freed is not to abandon life, but to dance through it without chains. The wise do not refuse the gifts of the world, they simply do not imprison their hearts within them. They love deeply, they serve diligently, they strive sincerely but always with open hands. They know that all things must pass, and because of this knowing, they do not weep when the tides recede. They bow to the rhythm of existence and find their home not in what can be clutched, but in what is always present, a silent, undisturbed awareness within. Thus, if you wish to reclaim your peace, do not begin by seeking more. Begin by loosening your grasp. Begin by seeing that nothing outside you can complete you and nothing outside you can truly diminish you. Begin by remembering, you are not the title. You are not the approval. You are not the role you perform so perfectly. You are the clear, boundless sky behind it all. Let the threads fall away. Let the burdens slip from your shoulders. Stand once again as you did when you first came into this world, open, unguarded, free. But knowing that we are bound by invisible threads is not enough. The true path of liberation begins with the art of letting go, not recklessly, not in rebellion, but with a gentle discernment of a heart that knows what is worth carrying and what must be released. Not everything deserves the precious space within your mind. Not every passing thought, every careless comment, every fleeting disturbance merits the cost of your peace. There is a question, simple yet powerful, that can become your compass in every storm. Will this matter 5 years from now? If the answer is no, let it fall away as you would let go of a dry, withered leaf, carried by the wind into the vastness of the sky. If the answer is no, release it without argument, without clinging, without regret. For life is too short, and your spirit too sacred, to be weighed down by burdens that will not even leave a shadow in the memory of your days. Consider this: you are engaged in a heated debate on a platform of shifting opinions. A stranger misunderstands you, twists your words, questions your intentions. The fire rises within you, the urge to respond, to explain, to defend your truth. But pause, breathe it, and ask yourself, 5 years from now, will I even remember this exchange? Will it nourish my soul, or will it simply become another stone in the heavy sack of unnecessary grievances I carry? Most often, if we are honest, we find that these moments are as fleeting as mist. They do not define us. They do not shape the course of our true journey. They are like the dust on a traveler's robe, easily brushed away if we do not stubbornly cling to it. The Buddha spoke of the necessity of wise attention, yonaso manasakra, the careful, conscious directing of our awareness toward what leads to freedom, not bondage. It is not that life will cease to offer you reasons to react, it is that you will cease to sell your peace for so small a price. Imagine your mind as a garden. If you cultivate every seed that falls upon it, seeds of anger, seeds of envy, seeds of pride, you will soon find it overrun with thorns and weeds. But if you choose carefully, if you water only those seeds that bear the fruit of wisdom, compassion, and serenity, your inner garden will bloom with the fragrance of true happiness. This choice is made not once, but moment by moment. Each time a disturbance arises, you stand at a crossroads. Will you chase the passing storm, or will you return to the quiet sky? Will you pour your energy into winning arguments, proving yourself, defending illusions, or will you invest it into the silent work of becoming? True letting go is not apathy. It is not resignation. It is a profound act of love for yourself, for your brief, miraculous life. It is understanding that not every hill is worth climbing, not every battle is worth fighting, not every opinion is worth chasing. It is understanding that the greatest treasures of your heart deserve to be guarded with discernment, not thrown to the winds of every passing drama. Thus, the next time life tempts you to react, to defend, to retaliate, to entangle yourself in what does not serve, remember, 5 years from now, will this matter? If the answer is no, release it with a smile. Release it with a prayer of gratitude that you have remembered what so many forget, that your peace is yours to protect, not theirs to steal. And in that release, feel how the heart lightens. Feel how the chains loosen, the burdens lift, the spirit breathes again. Each small act of letting go is a step back to your original freedom, to the sacred stillness that has always waited patiently within you. Let it go. Let the dry leaves fall. Trust that what is true, what is real, what is worthy will never need to be clutched. It will remain, quietly, like the mountain, like the sky, like the truth of who you have always been. Many fear the word letting go because they mistake it for coldness, for apathy, for a withdrawal from love and life. They believe that to loosen the grip is to cease to care, to turn away from what is precious. Yet true letting go is not abandonment, nor is it indifference. It is, in truth, the highest form of wisdom and the most profound act of compassion. The awakened ones have long understood that to release our attachments is not to love less, but to love more purely. It is the shedding of ownership, the dissolution of that subtle craving that demands the beloved must stay, must behave, must complete the aching emptiness within us. True love asks for nothing, it only blesses. The Buddha, whose heart embraced the suffering of all beings, taught with infinite tenderness, "It is not that I do not love, but that I do not cling." True love does not grasp. To love without clinging, to serve without expectation, to give without bargaining for return, this is the liberation that comes with letting go. There is a story once told by a venerable master who came upon a flower blooming brilliantly in the forest. Its fragrance was sweet beyond words, its colors sang with the light of the sun. A thought arose within him, to pick it, to carry its beauty with him. But wisdom spoke otherwise. "If I pluck it, I end its life. If I demand it to be mine, I destroy what I cherish." And so, he knelt in reverence, breathed in its living fragrance, and continued on his path, allowing the flower to live, to bloom, to be free. In this act, he showed that true love is not consumption but communion, not possession, but presence. Letting go is thus not a rejection of life, but a fuller embrace of it. It is meeting each experience, each being, each moment, not with chains, but with open hands. It is trusting the river enough to let it flow, trusting the flower enough to let it bloom without grasping it into death. When we cling to what is impermanent, we suffer not once but twice, first in the fear of losing it, and again when it inevitably slips away. But when we meet life openly, without the desperate grasp of attachment, we experience each moment fully and are free to love it without fear. The lotus, sacred in Buddhist teaching, grows pure and radiant from the muddy waters because it does not cling to the mud. It rises freely, nourished but not bound. In the same way, our joy, our compassion, our wisdom become pure when they are free from the mud of clinging. Letting go, then, is not about feeling less, it is about feeling more truly, more freely, more fully. It is about loving the flower enough to leave it blooming, loving the river enough to let it run, loving the people in our lives enough to let them be who they are without chaining them to our own needs and fears. The unawakened mind sees letting go as a loss, but the awakened heart sees it as the beginning of real love, real peace, real life. To practice letting go is not to become cold or distant, but to become deeply alive, deeply connected to the real nature of things. It is to honor the sacredness of all life by refusing to turn it into a possession. It is to understand that what is real, what is lasting, what is true cannot be captured by grasping hands but can only be touched by an open, grateful heart. Thus, when you find yourself hesitating, fearing that letting go means loving less, remember, you are not stepping away from life, you are stepping into it more fully. You are not losing anything that was ever truly yours, you are setting free what was never meant to be held so tightly. Let the flower bloom. Let the river flow. Let the winds of life move freely through your open hands. And in that surrender, find the peace that has always been waiting for you, the peace of the clear, open sky, embracing every cloud, every gust, every sunbeam, without clinging, without fear, without loss. There comes a time on the path when the deepest wisdom is not in speaking, not in explaining, not even in defending, but simply in walking away in silence, with dignity and with peace intact. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some victories come at too great a cost, leaving behind not triumph but exhaustion, not honor but a quiet erosion of the soul. In a small, windswept monastery high in the mountains of Tibet, the monks lived by an unspoken rule. When discord arose between brothers, they would not argue, they would not attempt to counter one another with clever words. Instead, the one who recognized the rise of conflict would simply stand, bow lightly to his brother, and leave the room in silence. There was no need to proclaim who was right and who was wrong. No need to carve lines of separation in the sand. What mattered was not winning the argument, but preserving the vast, tender field of peace within themselves and between them. They understood a truth that most of the world forgets: the soul is a delicate garden, and every angry word is a stone cast upon its tender shoots. You are not obligated to stay where your heart must harden itself in order to endure. You are not required to explain your departure to those who cannot hear the silent language of peace. You own no defense when your spirit chooses the quiet path over the noisy one. To walk away without anger, without the burning need to prove, is to reclaim the sovereignty of your being. It is an act of strength, not weakness, an affirmation of life, not a retreat from it. Picture a still, clear lake. If someone throws a stone into it, the ripples may spread, the surface may tremble for a while, but the lake does not rise up to fight the stone. It does not chase after the hand that threw it. It remains grounded in its own nature, allowing the disturbance to pass, allowing the water to settle once more into its natural calm. In the same way, when someone casts misunderstanding, or accusation, or judgment toward you, you do not need to leap into the storm. You do not need to answer noise with more noise. You need only to remain as you are, calm, vast, aware, and let the ripples find their own stillness. The Buddha taught that anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at another. You are the one who gets burned. In the same way, when we argue, when we defend our egos, when we insist on being seen, being right, being victorious, we are often the first to lose our peace, long before any outer battle is won. True strength lies not in how loudly you can proclaim your righteousness, but in how quietly you can preserve your equanimity. True wisdom lies not in conquering others, but in conquering the restless need within yourself to be understood, to be justified, to be validated by those who may never possess the eyes to see you clearly. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is to bow, smile gently, and walk away. Walk away not from cowardice, but from a deep honoring of your own soul. Walk away because your inner peace is a temple far too sacred to be battered by the storms of others' confusion. Walk away, and in your silence, you will find a voice far stronger than any argument, the voice of the mountain, the voice of the endless sky, the voice of your own unshakable being. And so, the next time life tempts you into a battle of words, a clash of wills, a war of egos, pause. Remember the lake. Remember the monks who bowed and left in peace. Remember that winning an argument is often a far smaller victory than winning back your own serenity. Let them throw the stones. Let the ripples come. You remain the stillness beneath it all. You are not here to chase every stone. You are here to embody the vastness that no stone can truly disturb. Silently, gently, without bitterness or regret, walk away, and in doing so, walk back home to yourself. The question then arises, how does one walk through a world of endless turbulence without being swept away? How does one remain grounded, serene, untouched by the restless currents of praise and blame, gain and loss, pleasure and pain? The answer, whispered through centuries of wisdom, is deceptively simple and profoundly transformative. Practice pausing before you react. In a world addicted to speed, to instant responses, to the endless call and answer of emotion, the one who pauses stands apart like a tree rooted deep in the earth while the winds rage above. Just 3 breaths, just a moment's stillness before responding, and already you have stepped outside the common tide that drags so many hearts into suffering. In that pause, you reclaim the freedom to choose not to react blindly, but to act with awareness. And so the practice deepens, to carry mindfulness into every corner of your life, not only when you sit upon a meditation cushion, but when you wash your hands, feeling the coolness of the water upon your skin, when you eat your meal, truly tasting each bite instead of rushing mindlessly to the next. These simple acts, done with full presence, become sacred. They anchor you back into the reality of the moment, reminding you that life is not a race to be won but a mystery to be lived, breath by breath. Beyond pausing and mindfulness lies an even subtler art, the art of observing without clinging. Emotions will arise. This is the nature of the mind. Anger, sadness, fear, joy, they come like clouds drifting across the vast sky of your awareness. But you, dear one, are not the clouds. You are not the passing storm. You are the sky itself, spacious and untroubled. The Buddha spoke this truth so clearly. The mind is like the vast sky. All emotions are but clouds passing through. If you forget this, you will chase the clouds, curse the storms, fear the gathering shadows. If you remember this, you will simply watch calm, steady, unmoved. You will greet each emotion like an old friend passing through town, welcoming, acknowledging, and letting it move on without chaining it to your heart. Do not resist the rain when it falls. Do not cling to the sun when it shines. Let both come, let both go. Know that beyond every tempest, beyond every fleeting sorrow or delight, you remain what you have always been, the silent, boundless sky. In the beginning, this practice may seem small, even insignificant. What difference can 3 breaths make against the storms of life? What power lies in simply feeling the water on your hands, tasting your food, watching your anger without obeying it? But know this, rivers carve mountains by the patient work of single drops. The greatest transformations are born from the smallest, most consistent acts of attention. Thus, with every pause, every mindful touch, every breath of spacious awareness, you are not merely surviving this world, you are mastering it from within. You are building a refuge that no outer storm can destroy. You are remembering your true nature, not as a puppet of circumstance, but as the vast, luminous awareness behind all changing forms. Be patient. Be gentle. Be steadfast. The sky does not force the clouds to move faster, nor does it weep when they darken. It simply abides, open, accepting, serene. You too can abide. You too can remember. You too can live with such depth of stillness that the world, with all its noise and clamor, passes before you like a play upon a distant stage. And in that stillness, you will find not only peace, but the unshakable joy that comes from knowing, I am not the fleeting weather of my life. I am the endless sky. There was once a young monk, earnest and sincere, who struggled each time he sat in meditation. As soon as he closed his eyes, waves of restless thoughts would surge through his mind, fears, regrets, desires, old wounds rising unbidden from the depths of memory. Frustrated and weary, he approached his master and asked, "Master, how can I stop these thoughts? How can I silence the chaos within me?" The old teacher simply smiled, his face serene like a quiet lake, and pointed toward the sky. "Look," he said gently. "Do you see the sky above us? Even when dark clouds gather, even when storms rage and lightning splits the heavens, the sky itself remains pure, vast, untouched. The storms come and go, but the sky is always there, untroubled behind it all. Your mind is the same. Your true nature is the open sky. The thoughts, the emotions, the disturbances, they are only passing clouds. Do not waste your strength trying to chase them away. Simply remember the sky." The young monk, hearing these words, felt something shift deep within him. A space opened where once there had been only struggle. He understood then, peace is not found by silencing the mind, it is found by no longer mistaking the clouds for the sky. You, dear one, are no different. You need not conquer every fear, fix every thought, resolve every emotion to find your peace. You need only to recognize that you are not the passing storms. You are not the anger that rises nor the sorrow that falls. You are not the fleeting clouds of desire, nor the heavy rains of regret. Beneath them all, you are the boundless, luminous sky. When sadness arises, let it arise. When anger stirs, let it stir. When old wounds whisper in the silence, listen without fear. They are but weather transient, ever-changing, powerless unless you clutch them to your chest and call them me. In truth, you are the vastness that holds it all without being defined by any of it. This is the heart of true practice, not fighting the mind, not fleeing from it, but resting as the awareness in which all things come and go. To sit like the mountain as the seasons change. To remain like the sky as clouds gather and part. Each time you remember this, each time you feel the tug of emotion and gently return to the quiet knowing behind it, you take another step into your true home, the home you have never truly left, but only forgotten amidst the noise of the winds. Let the clouds come. Let the storms rage if they must. You remain the sky, white and unshaken. You remain the open expanse in which all things rise and fall. Do not be afraid of your thoughts. Do not be ashamed of your emotions. They are not mistakes. They are simply the movements of the weather across your vastness. Smile at them. Bow to them. Let them pass as they always have and always will. And each time you return, quietly, wordlessly, to the stillness that watches, you strengthen your roots in what is real, what is lasting, what no storm can ever uproot. You are not here to control the sky. You are here to remember that you are the sky. And in this remembrance, you will find a peace so deep, so unshakable, that even the fiercest winds of the world cannot move you. The storms will pass. The clouds will dissolve. The sky will remain clear, vast, eternal. And so will you. And as we reach the end of this moment together, remember this: you have never been lost. The storms may have raged, the clouds may have gathered, but the clear sky of your being was never harmed. The freedom you seek is not something you must earn, it is the truth of who you have always been. Let the stones be thrown. Let the winds rise. You remain. Not as a fragile flame to be blown out, but as the silent sky that holds all storms and outlasts them all. If these words have touched something quiet and ancient within you, I invite you once more to share your presence with us. Leave a comment, so that your voice adds to the stillness we are building here. Subscribe, not out of habit, but out of a deep choice to walk this path with mindfulness and courage. And know this above all, you are not alone. You are the sky. You are the mountain. You are the stillness that no world can ever shake. Until we meet again, walk gently, live deeply, breathe freely.